All right, Coach, lock it in here as best we can. Matchup with the Bears. Well, in a court, get to see them 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and then we've got a lot of crossover film. I'm sure they have of us, playing that division this year, and they're playing really well right now. A little bit. We talked on Monday. They do a really good job defensively against the run. That the numbers back it up, and a little bit different than some of the other teams we've seen. I think what they do a really good job of is the way they move that front. They got the defense plays extremely fast. They bring pressure at the right time, which we've seen a lot of. A lot of teams have pressured us recently, trying to attack our run game, and Chicago does it as well as anybody. And the secondary plays extremely well. When you do pick the ball up, they do a good job in coverage and really attacking the football when it's in the air. And then offensively led, right there, a really good rushing team. They get contributions from everybody. 3 good traditional runners, and obviously Justin. He's got almost 600 yards. And some of it's design, some of it's on play extension.
Last year, after you guys played the Bears, you kind of said that they were, I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically the way they were using Justin Fields was almost like a running back. Have you seen a difference in ways that they're using him this year?
I don't remember saying that. If I did, I'm sure it's on record. But
yeah.
Paraphrasing, I don't know. And that's we got a lot of respect for Justin, and they got a really good group of skilled players, and their line's playing really well too. So I never have said something like that.
It was their usage of him in the game.
Sure, the usage of it, but I think sometimes that kind of where we're at. I think it's the way that society is now. But like to be able to, it's a shot if somebody's get called a game manager or they're a system guy. Like I don't. You go to the history of the league, and a lot of things are true. You being in the right place with the right chemistry of guys and the right staff and timing, that can impact guys' careers. But when somebody's had success in the league, like, they should get credit where credit's due, no matter how they do it. I don't know why that's a knock on somebody if they get called a system guy and that it's catch and run. I mean, it's hard enough to play quarterback when a young quarterback. And if a guy early in his career has got a really good defense and then he wins games and then his career takes off. Or if a guy can extend plays and he's a dynamic player. So I just want to go on the record that that's not, when people get labels like that, it's just they're really successful and they're winning games because they can extend drives, they chew up the clock. Some of it is traditional zone read, some of it's direct quarterback pin pull plays, whatever you want to categorize those. Almost a crack toss, but you're not tossing it, you're just running to try to get an extra hat out there in the run game. And they do a really damn good job of it. They've done it for 2 years in a row. And they found a formula, they get up on teams, and they can make life hard on you.
To your injuries, you said you felt Monday.
Yeah,
be all right.
Yeah, and we'll have everybody out there in some capacity today. Some guys limited, but everybody should be out there.
That includes you.
Yes.
Could you talk a little? Okay,
Taylor in that game, obviously very happy with the way he played, but he didn't really push the ball downfield. Do you see that more of a product of just the coverages, just taking what he was given to him? Is that something?
Well, I mean, you got to know who you're playing and what their strengths are, and Indy's, they've been very successful. Some people gain yards, and in opportune times they were getting critical pressures or sacks and forcing turnovers, and they do a good job of anybody dropping out in the zone. It's why we were able to get some things underneath, and then he did have the one to Kyle, that corner route that he hit on the first drive, and he had a one-on-one. I mean, it wouldn't have been a 50-yarder, but Van, and but that's a credit also to Indy. And again, going back to managing a game, that's not a negative, making the smart play, and he did that more times than not.
Statically, is Calais and CP still in there?
He's got his lead. I'm going to name it after him. That's Wednesday. When you get 10+ and there's some things you need to manage, they're in here working. Like when you go to where do you work out? We don't want to put that on blast. We don't need all your followers going down there. But when you're in there in the water aerobics, right, doing that, Calais is doing a little more intense in the pool. But it's the D led vet day. But CP and Calais will be in there.
Okay.
You can all picture it, right? Right? You do pool workouts? Let's put you on the hot seat. Do you do pool workouts?
Yeah.
Of course you do. There it is.
45 minutes.
Awesome.
I wasn't sure you wanted to make a picture there, and I'm sad on all of this.
Getting a good workout in,
I'm trying to lash health as your wealth.
no doubt.
It seems like since the Bears got traded for Sweat,
Mhm.
the defense has maybe taken another step. Have you seen changes?
Well, yeah, I
in
mean,
what they've
certainly.
done since they got it?
I don't know if it's necessarily changes. I mean, it certainly helps when you add a dynamic rusher like that. And then, they've also gotten in the season, they got a little bit healthier, and they found a rhythm on offense as well. So it's a couple things, and he certainly impacts the game. And we've seen him, talk about a player we've seen a lot recently from Washington. We've had those matchups, and here we go again. And he's a dynamic pass rusher, and he's got a unique way to do it. He's got rare length. He does a good job getting off blocks and setting things up. There's a reason he's got, double-digit sacks.
Coach, a lot of guys said after the game Sunday that they felt like that was the first game all year where they kind of put 4 good quarters together all at once, both sides of the ball. How do you kind of build on that and carry that momentum into this week?
Yeah, well, that's what you're constantly striving for, consistency, and it's usually not the way it goes over 17, but that, to me, the good teams I've been around is you're trying to play your best football at the end of the year, and certainly you hope we can continue to do that. And this week will be a unique challenge, as they all are, but that's what you want to see. I mean, to me, that's if you want to play in the postseason and be a team that's relevant every year and double-digit wins, we need to play like that, and that's what we're shooting for. But we got to put the work in this week. We got to understand the plan and understand the matchups we got Sunday.
Coach, you played a couple quarterbacks already this year with Josh Dobbs, Kyler Murray, that could escape, break, contain when a play breaks down. With Justin, sometimes it is more design runs, but he does have that break, contain ability.
Oh, he does.
How, seeing those other guys early in the year, how do you kind of change up a game plan when you have a guy that can extend and?
Yeah. Well, they're all terrific players in their own right, and the way they extend play is a little bit different, But the thing that I think makes Justin so unique is he's such a powerful player once he gets going. So he's hard to, even when they get pressured, guys have a hard time bringing him down. So when he gets out of it, like if you're not strong, you don't use fundamentals, and you don't have rush integrity, and when he takes off, and especially if the defense has their back turned, then those have damn near been home runs once he gets going. So he's a powerful runner. So a little bit different in how they do it, but you're right, they're all play extenders. We just got to have a good mix, and talking about with the plan and being disciplined. That's usually what it comes down to.
We've seen the emergence the last couple of weeks of Zach Harrison specifically, like from a production standpoint. Where did you see, or when was it, like him take that jump this year?
It's just usually, it's like a lot of things that there wasn't like an aha moment, but sometimes it's really boring, and it just kind of stayed. And then the opportunity presents itself. He's taking advantage of it, but he's been putting the work in all year. Slow and steady, no different than Clark and DeMarco, and we don't talk a lot about Matt Bergeron, but Berge has played a really good football. It's some good lessons, and he's been fortunate to play some really good players, and I think he's done a good job. In the last couple of weeks, he's had some premier guys inside. Buckner certainly was one of them, and he continues to get better as well.
Yeah, Coach, with Clark, what was, what has his incline been like, or what were some of the things that he had to, adapt to in the program?
Well, I think, we had a lot of depth at that position early on in camp, and then some guys got injured, and he got an opportunity, and now he's playing a little more outside, where he was playing inside in camp, and between Mike and D, and then Jeff, Trey. But there's some things, like a lot of we ask those guys to do, it's not just man coverage and hey, you take your guy. So there's some nuances, and he's done a great job. And you talk about a guy that consistently, which is a long season for a rookie, even when he wasn't playing, but the guy comes in here early every week, competes every day in practice, and now he's got his opportunity. He's found that consistency, and he's a fun player to watch. There's always things you go back and watch Clark that make you smile when you see the tape. Just a little subtle things. He likes to play.
You guys have been using Mike Hughes more
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple of weeks, but what went into the decision to maybe go with Mike more a bit now?
Well, some of them, it's been teams that sort of do first, second down. It depends on if you want to get more DBs on there and try to play their strengths, and what teams are trying to do to Usually, if you play small first thing down, people try to get you into the run fronts and different things. But it's a credit, Mike. I think the last couple of weeks he's found pretty good consistency in there, especially on first, second down. But we played a lot of guys in different packages, but he's done a good job.
And some of it too, I mean, you just mentioned teams maybe try to get you in run situations at that point. Is it just that maybe Mike's a little bit more experienced, better against the run than D is, or is it?
Yeah, some of it. Some of it's that, and then other things is, it's when you have such a competitive room, matchup based, and then some of it's opportunity. And then when he's gotten in there, he's taken advantage, and it's a good problem to have when you're trying to find roles for guys that you trust. And all those guys have been dressed on game day. We've tried to find different roles, even Trey at different times where he's played inside on certain packages. Early in the year, obviously played outside, and to me, I look at it as a good problem to have. But Mike's played pretty well the last couple of weeks.
How close is this offense from taking it to the next level and turning these field goal opportunities into touchdowns?
Well, I think that's every week, and every week tells a different story. Obviously, like I said, you want to score a touchdown every time you have a possession. I believe we scored on 7 out of the 10. 2 of them, you're, like I said, on the record, 2 of those trips, one of them right into the half situation, so, time was running out. How greedy you want to get, you can get subjected to debate, but you're happy with the field goal there. Too late, you're managing the situation, the clock. Obviously, you want to score touchdowns. Maybe you got a little more risk adverse. So I'll tell different stories. You get close to 30. Obviously, you'd love to average 35. You'd probably lead the league, right? Try to, at least get that, and you think you would win almost every game. But every week's a little bit different. Like something happens in the red zone, or you have an opportunity, maybe you don't take advantage, or they have a say too. But we just consistently work to improve, and that's all you can do. But scoring 29 wasn't the worst thing in the world. 7 of 10 on scoring drives. Clearly, you'd love to have 7 touchdowns, but there's other things that sometimes you're playing different scenarios.
Yeah, Coach, can you quantify what Calais Campbell's meant to the team this year, and you think he can keep going if he'd like to?
Well, that'd be a better question for him there. Love working with him. I think he's a rare player. Just the longevity he's had. Really, it's sometimes the guys get to the end of their career and they're hanging around like a relic of the past. Calais says he's like Benjamin Button. Now he hasn't shrunk, but he's plays with the effort of a young player. So love working with Calais, and he's everything you see is who he really is.
I guess it goes without saying that you think from a coaching perspective he could keep going, he could keep playing with you.
That's for him to say. Yeah, again, I never want to speak for somebody else, but he's still playing at a high level.
After the game on Sunday, a lot of players were talking about Taylor, and just you were talking about the experience that he brings, kind of that veteran experience he brings, and they were talking about how kind of calm he was. Bijan even mentioned that he was like rapping in the huddle.
Taylor's got a unique style.
Yeah, he does. I'm just curious from your perspective how it is working with him, like in the room.
They're all different. Everybody I've been fortunate enough to work with. That's why you try to build relationships. Everybody, handles things differently on game day. Taylor, I think that's why it's important to have relationships to understand what guys maybe need in game day, and even setting up the week. And I think that's a part of the art of coaching, and a lot of it is just relationship building. And so Taylor's a very fun player to work with. But he did a nice job the other day. I didn't, sideline antics. He's a tough player, extends plays. Slightly dramatic, but we love him.
Were you concerned at all when he ran into the kicking net?
No, once I saw him get up. It was illegal. It was a good play, but I think it was speed, right? Yeah. He was still in the green. At your own peril. And then he went flying. They sent him into Gainesville, Georgia. But he hit the Gatorade thing, and then he hit the kicking net. Yeah.
And then he was throwing a block for Bijan there.
Yeah, then Bijan lit him up. So he did a hell of a job. He made the first block, and then as soon as he turned around, he was in Bijan's way. And
you had to tell Bijan, like, hey, don't use him like he's Chris Lindstrom out there.
You don't know what those guys see. It just somebody's in your way, run him over. It's like John You know, he gets that screen, goes outside, he goes inside, at your own peril, he runs 3 people over. We got some strong players, and I think Taylor realized what it feels like to be a DB sometimes, but he did a hell of a job. And then the irony is, as soon as he turned around, a friendly fire got him.
Has Taylor been showing up his new Jays?
I haven't seen them. I don't know. They may be off-brand. We need to check and see if they're real.
I was just saying, well, you know the tradition, right?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, sadly, he's gotten 2 in 21. I think if he's telling the truth, right, off the Falcons in 21 and 22. So I haven't seen them, but I think somebody should check and see if they're not like the off-brand.
Jordans.
Maybe.
Arthur, you had said last week that Taylor, you thought gave you the best chance to win. Between when you went back to Des after the bye, then going to Taylor, I mean, what was Taylor doing specifically? Some of this was on the on-field performance from Des, but what was Taylor doing in practices that gave you more confidence to say, we're going to go with him?
Well, I've always had confidence when we signed him, you know. I mean, that's why we brought him in here as a vet. Knew his role coming in, and, you know, I thought he played pretty well in Minnesota. Obviously, we came up short, and then just where the circumstances were with Des, going back to him, and just knowing he'd always be ready. I mean, he's been in so many different roles. You know, hasn't taken the traditional route in the NFL, and I think he understands how special it is when you do get the opportunity to play, and he's always been ready, no different than Logan. I mean, I think Logan is a guy that's a very underrated player in that room. The growth that Logan's had, and he doesn't even realize it, but he pushes the rest of those guys, the way he prepares, and he may only get a couple reps, but he treats them like it's a Super Bowl, and it's just good chemistry in the room with all 3 of them.
You get kind of caught up in the weeds of what's needed to make the playoffs and the help you need. Do you get aware of it but don't pay attention to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, unless you living in Perth, Australia or something, and you turn your cell phone off, I mean, I think you're aware of it, or whatever, but it's just, the reality is, like, nothing matters. Like, when you start to get caught up, it's just a waste of time. You know, obviously people have to be aware of it, the other parts of the building, but for us, you know, the players and coaches, I mean, nothing matters but Chicago. And I think sometimes it's, you know, you're in such a long season when you start worrying about other things, good or bad, and just taking energy away from preparing for Sunday, because you're always on a clock every week. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like Mondays, that's the thing, whether you win or lose, you need to turn the page, because the longer you spend lingering on a loss, or if you get complacent on a win, neither one of them help you. So that's always a challenge, and that's very apparent now. You get caught up in that, because if you go out there and we don't play well in Chicago, nothing else matters.